Basement, level vibes with another one, straight up, blackness aye. Who tell the truth? Mark Benskop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benskop, radio station is the fruit. Mark Benskop, straight up from the root. Mark Benskop, who tell the truth? Mark Benskop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benskop, radio station is the fruit. Mark Benskop, straight up from the root. Mark Benskop, I do it for the love, him not do it for no money. Straight up, him attack, educating everybody. Big up my friends and big up my family. Turn on the radio, catch the vibes, it's integrity. Straight up, Benskop stands for unity. One people, one nation, one destiny. Free up the truth in the air, even the blind can see. The deaf can hear, the dumb can talk, the cripple can walk. Boom. Who tell the truth? Mark Benskop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benskop, radio station is the fruit. Mark Benskop, straight up from the root. Mark Benskop, who tell the truth? Mark Benskop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benskop, radio station is the fruit. Mark Benskop, straight up from the root. Mark Benskop, we have to gather wrong, grab a seat and sit down, pay attention. Education, liberation, we have to stand strong. Benskop upon the radio, lively up the program. Everybody call somebody and let them turn and tune and on the radio and catch the boom song. We boom it up already, we have to boom it up again. Expose and reveal him. Who tell the truth? Mark Benskop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benskop, radio station is the truth. Mark Benskop, straight up from the root. Mark Benskop, who tell the truth? Mark Benskop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benskop, radio station is the truth. Mark Benskop, straight up from the root. Mark Benskop, I do it for the love, him not do it for no money. Straight up, him attack, educating everybody. Big up my friends and big up my family. Turn on the radio, catch the vibes, it's integrity. Straight up, Benskop stands for unity. One people, one nation, one destiny. Free up the truth in the air, even the blind can see. The deaf can hear, the dumb can talk, the cripple can walk. Boom. Who tell the truth? Mark Benskop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benskop, radio station is the fruit. Mark Benskop, straight up from the root. Mark Benskop, who tell the truth? Mark Benskop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benskop, radio station is the fruit. Mark Benskop, straight up from the root. Mark Benskop.
This is attorney Sheldon Washington, owner and founder of the Washington Law Firm, located at 455 Utica Avenue in Brooklyn, New York. We're specialized in medical malpractice, personal injuries, matrimonial law, and landlord and tenant. If you're in need of legal representation, please give us a call today. The number to call is 718-877-3100. Consultation is free at no cost to you, so call us today to see if we can be of any assistance to your legal needs. Again, the phone number to call us is 718-877-3100.
If you are looking to have your statutory declaration, affidavit of income, identity, damage or lost passport, lost license, tenancy agreement, agreement of settlement, power of attorney, last will and testament, and certification of documents, then you need to visit the Alistair Collins firm, located at the Kellyan Mall, 162 Lamaha Street, in Georgetown, between Camp and Waterloo Street. Alistair Collins is a commissioner of oaths and a justice of the peace. Make certain you visit him or call for more information at 649-6410 or 685-6448 or 503-1451. And there's adequate parking available. Go down to the Alistair Collins firm and have all of your legal issues settled and brought to the fore. Alistair Collins firm. Contact them at Alistair Collins firm.
Mr. Watts, he is armed himself. Shots. Watch it. Tear gas. Live rounds. Also, I can see that.
Just for Quentin!
Everyone is a boxer, man. Why can't put in a boxer, man, to do that? But since my question there is no, you come on the East Coast.
You listen to me.
Right? No, you come on the East Coast.
You listen to me now.
You gotta listen to me too, man.
I am listening to
Right?
you.
Now, I see you on the East Coast. The day when they get a protest of them, the next day, that's when you see one bigger heads come up to talk to my family. Right? And that's bad. If you didn't do a protest, you want to see nobody for justice. You see? I'm not holding back nothing. I'm not holding back nothing. I just need justice for my family. I get visitors all of a sudden. All of a sudden, you all have visitors. This is Joker. Who is that Joker? That piece of plum. They know who to deal with, you know.
Good evening. It's 9 minutes after 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, 9 minutes after 9 o'clock in Guyana. Spread the word that we are on, and we are dealing with serious business in the struggle. This struggle is for everyone. Everyone contributes towards this struggle. And we cannot and will not accept people some people who believe that the only sort of contributions, those who are residing in the diaspora, the only contributions that they can make is make a quick donation, drop a little something in the piggy bank of individuals back home, and that's the only contributions. That is unacceptable. You guys must ensure that you reject that notion. Good evening. My name is Mark Benchap. We are going to rock and roll for 1 hour right here on 107.1 FM. Let's begin with, I know you guys saw this up here. This was the original declaration of the March 2nd, 2020 general and regional elections. The original. This is where all of the spoil votes were rejected. All of the questionable votes were not counted. And that's a fact. It's good that they were not counted, because in any elections, and I repeat, any elections, you cannot have spoiled votes. You cannot have questionable votes counted. And a declaration is made and declares someone a winner with thousands of spoiled ballots. It just doesn't work that way. It doesn't work in a democracy. Take a good look at this here. And this is what the opposition needs to be reminding the public of. The correct declaration. It doesn't matter if it's every day they do that. It doesn't hurt at all. And in politics, the constant reminder of your of the many wrongdoings of the elections, the 2020 elections, works in your favor. I hope the opposition understands this. This is not a fight where you just say something one day and that's it. And then you get all your bumps raised up, you get in your ricketics when people constructively criticize the opposition. And rightly so. If they are members of parliament who are not working, if they are lazy, the ones in the opposition, that is, they must be called out. The opposition has about 30-something members of parliament. The question is, how often do you see them? How often do you see most of them out there fighting for you? How often do you see most of them coming out representing you on any interest, on anything at all? Occasionally, some may do what I call a drive-by, a quick photograph just for the optics, a drive-by, and they go back in their nests, and that's it. And they want us to feel comfortable about this. Should we just sit back and feel comfortable about these sort of things? Should we sit back and accept it? And then when you talk, when you try to tell them that their version of boots on the ground is not boots on the ground, it is just not boots on the ground. It is basically trying a thing. It's basically trying to brainwash the supporters into believing that there is a struggle, when in fact we can see, whether those of us who are in the diaspora, whether we're in Linden, wherever we are, we can see and we know when the struggle is fake, when people are trying to fake the struggle, some for personal reasons. It is just not acceptable. Look, I've been in the trenches for years. I've been in the struggle. I understand what the struggle is. And I know when people are faking that struggle. And those who are in the opposition, most of those MPs, again, the operative word, most of those MPs need to wake up, smell the coffee, go out there and work on behalf of the people. They can't get vexed when people talk about them being inactive and then try to insult people, all because their bumps raise. They get into their feelings. They get into the ricketics. That is not politics. If you want people to support you, then you've got to be able to respect and take constructive criticisms as they come. That is what real elected officials do. They correct their errors. They say, look, this is what the opposition should be doing. They should be saying, look, I understand that there are folks out there, and I hope some of them learn and understand proper decorum, how things should be done, especially when you are in politics, especially when you are expecting people to vote for you, especially when you want supporters, especially those who are basically dissatisfied with what they're seeing in the opposition. You want to be able to win them back. You really want to be able to win them back. How can you win them back? You can't win them back by telling them to hell with them, get out of here, they're bullshitting and all. You don't win support like that. You don't gain supporters like that. And it's time that the opposition wake up to true reality and stop the bitching around. Stop the complaining. Stop the crocodile tears. Go out there and work. The struggle is real. All of us know the struggle. Some of us have been in the struggle long enough to understand the struggle. Some are new in the struggle. And so the new ones who are in the struggle must be guided. And they must not be guided based on their temperament, getting angry. And you know, the struggle is indeed real. All of us, lots of you are going through that struggle. Lots of you don't have breakfast on your table sometimes, you know, not necessarily all of you, but a lot of people don't have that. They don't have that source of income, but yet they all are part of that struggle to make it work. And it's time that those who are in the opposition, those who are being paid to represent our interest, must do so, and must do so daily and aggressively. That is the sort of opposition politicking people want. People don't want those who just complain and complain and complain and complain. A lot of people don't get a salary at the end of the month. A lot of people don't know what they're drinking, what some people out in Sophia and other places, they don't know what they're going to have for breakfast tomorrow morning. Some don't even know what they're having for dinner tonight. But all of our MPs have been receiving almost $300,000 salaries every month. $300,000. Do you hear any of them donating a little $20,000 to charity? Do you hear any of them dropping a little $10,000, a little $5,000, a little bowl? Some of them might argue, hey, we give back more than that. But the fact is they work for us. They work for the people. And they need to stop complaining. They need to go out there. They need to do their job. Not a quick drive-by, take a photograph and say, hey, we out here. No, it doesn't work like that. And I'm not going to sit by and allow what they interpret as politicking, what they interpret as boots on the ground. I know what is boots on the ground. I know what is even take the boots and dash it aside and walk the streets bare feet. And there are lots of you who understand that type of struggle. But we don't complain how we approach a struggle. Whether we stand in the protest line hungry or not, we just don't complain. Real soldiers in the struggle do not complain about the struggle. And those who are opposition MPs need to stand up and do more and stop complaining and stop making this look as though those of you who are in the diaspora don't have a say. And your only say is money, money and money. And that your only purpose appears to be donate and shut up. Those of you who are in the diaspora, do not be bullied into believing, don't have anyone bully you into thinking that your only purpose is donation. To give politicians a donation. That is not your purpose. That is not your only purpose. You are here to criticize constructively. And if the MPs are messing up, you tell them that they are messing up. Don't accept any insults from the MPs who are messing up, costing you to tell you that you can't criticize them. It is not going to happen at all. They got to go out there. When was the last time you see? When was the last time you've seen majority of these MPs out there standing up and protecting and representing your interests? When was the last time you've seen that? When was the last time you've heard some sort of empowerment program by some of our MPs and all? We don't see that. All they do is when something affects them, then they want all of us to join with them. Join with them and cry. And just cry for them. Lots of people are going through hardships in the country, not just Guyana, all across the world, wherever Guyanese. Some people back home think it's a bed of roses, right? That things are all hunky-dory. And that every day you got to pull out a little small piece and just give. But the minute you say boots on the ground, the insult starts. The minute you say do something, the insult starts. The minute you say you got to do more, the insult starts. And they get in the bumps and they get in the feelings. As opposed to saying, look, I understand how you guys feel. We should be doing, that's what they should be doing. We should be doing more for you guys. That is what. And from here on, we will do more. You don't insult people. Do you know all of those MPs, other than getting nearly $300,000 a month, they've been getting for over 2+ years. Some of them, when they were in office, got a salary of over $600,000, $700,000, $1 million, and all these things per month. But now they're complaining. When Beverly in Sophia, Daphne in Linden, Charlene in Ituni, Deborah in Bartica, Swarswati in Blackbush Pola, Gulmati at Alnis Village are feeling the same squeeze. But when these ordinary people head out and they got to cross the bridge and these things, they got to pay to cross the bridge. Whether it's the Berbice River Bridge, Whether it's the Demerara Harbor Bridge, they got to pay to cross the bridge. But all the MPs do not pay. All of the MPs do not pay to cross the bridge. That's the luxury they get. All of the MPs receive duty-free concessions and all these manner of things. But yet, they want to bully people. Who to say what? Who to say that there's not a boots on? There is no struggle by the opposition. Let's stop BSing ourselves. There is no struggle. There is absolutely no struggle. None whatsoever. And they want people to say, oh, all of us can be out there. Some of us got to be behind closed doors in the office doing research. Nobody went out. I didn't go out there and vote for no MP to sit down in some air-conditioned office doing research. They can hire researchers for that. They got people who will do free researching work for them. Our MPs are not researchers. They get paid to represent us. And if they can't represent us, if they feel that they're afraid to go out there and represent us, well, just quit. Just move on to teaching, move on to something else. Go and cut cane, or go at the bauxite industry and work. Or go over by either Dutchy Boat Landing or the Adams Boat Landing and fill out an application and just be a boat operator or a boat conductor. That's all. This game is not about complaining and whining every day, all because people saying boots on the ground, boots on the ground. The boots on the ground getting to them because they are not putting boots on the ground. Too many excuses. Bunch of excuses from these individuals. And some of them cry like babies. Look, let's break it down before we move on. How many of you know your member of parliament for your district, for your region? And if you know your member of parliament for your region, how many of you have seen your member of parliament in your community, representing your community, representing your community's interest and so forth? How many of you have seen that? How many of you? The answer is majority of you don't even know who your members of parliaments are. Majority of you don't know. And the truth is, majority of your members of parliament don't represent your interest. They don't come out to represent your interests. I'll get back to that. We have attorney at law, Sheldon Washington, I'm told by our operator, has been waiting for a while behind. And I've been talking and talking. I didn't even look at the message of our operator. Sorry about that, Lemon. This is the second time I'm doing this. I did this to Congresswoman Yvette Clarke, and here it is now. I'm just talking away, and we have our attorney, Sheldon Washington, is with us. Ms. Washington, good evening, and I apologize, man. I just had to give those politicians, those members of parliament who should be out there representing people's interests, but all they do, come on social media, blah, 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 couple minutes, and they're gone. Good evening. How are you doing?
Hi, good night, Mark. I am doing well. How about yourself?
I'm quite well, thank you. And I know what might be percolating through your mind, but oh my gosh, Guyanese men could abuse. Good to see you. Good to see you.
Nice to be here, Mark. It's always a pleasure to be here on your show.
It's always a pleasure to have you here on the show. Let's begin with the midterm elections here in the United States. Lots of surprises and so forth. It looks as though the Senate, they might very well have that runoff out in Atlanta. The Republicans have gone with the House. Some of our favorite politicians have been re-elected. I'm talking about U.S. Our favorite politicians in the U.S. have been re-elected. What's your take on the recently concluded? Well, it's not fully concluded, though.
I guess it's not fully concluded, but I think they said they've been, a few surprises here and there. And I guess in some places they said the economy did not contribute towards the way the voters did actually vote, because there's some states that remained blue. but then there's a little bit of surprises where some have turned red. I think the economy, to some extent, would have impacted some of those states. With what's going on here, the inflation, a lot of Americans are feeling the squeeze with the inflation here. So if that is impacting us, I could imagine what's going on in Guyana in terms of people being able to afford their cost of living there.
You're right about that because the ordinary folks cannot afford it. But while I was just chatting away and letting those individuals back in Guyana know, especially those members of parliament in the opposition, that their job is to go out and represent the people, not to stay in their air-conditioned offices and doing research and all these different things. It's just not about that at all. But before I give you an opportunity to respond, let me just take this time out to salute all of our veterans who are watching, all of our veterans in Guyana, outside of Guyana, and of course, other parts of the world. Salute. Thank you for your service to the veterans. I have a lot of family members, a lot of friends, and of course, a lot of countrymen and women who are veterans. And so salute to you all. Your take on the lack of representation by our MPs, opposition MPs, my opinion, I'm not sure if you've been observing that as well. What would be your advice to them as elected officials?
I think that's one of the things in Guyana. Before I even say that, I want to say good night to a lot of your listeners. I could see some of them are saying good night. Good night to all of you out there. And I want to say, before I answer Mark's question, I want to thank all of you for your love and support. And you can follow me I'm on Facebook also. I'm on every single social media you can think about. Anyway, let's get back to Mark's question. I think one of the confusions in Guyana, Mark, is that we don't understand that when an official is elected, they are elected to serve the people. They're not elected for their own self-interest. And I think the line becomes a little bit blurred or even confusing as it relates to those people who are elected into offices in Guyana. They're there, but they don't understand that they're there to serve the people. And whatever the people's will is, that's what you're supposed to be working towards achieving. It's not about yourself. So a lot of times they just think, okay, I'm here and I'm the boss. I'm the one who's in control, but you're not, because it's the people who put you there to serve them. And your purpose is to serve the people and to ensure that the interests of the people are taken care of. And a lot of times they don't see it that way. And I guess it's because of the type of politics we run in Guyana. In Guyana, we are mostly self-consumed in ourselves. And because the elections are not usually fair, like we can't even have that. Elections are there's always issues with the election in Guyana. If the election should be fair, where those elected would realize that if I don't serve the people, if I don't perform my duties correctly, they're going to put somebody else in this position. They're going to elect somebody else. But when you have a situation where a person feels in power because the people cannot move them, because the process by which they get into office is so corrupt, then that puts a certain amount of power into that person's hand to deal with this whole situation the way they seem fit. And they believe that they're the boss, they're in control. So the people in Guyana are not being represented the way they should be. That's because the process is just corrupt. The electoral process in Guyana needs fixing. And until that broken system is fixed, then we will continue to see situations where those who are elected in power feel like they are in control, that they are the boss, and the people have to do as they say, versus the other way around, where they're supposed to carry out the will of the people.
Well said. A lot of them do believe that it's the other way around. And they get into their feelings whenever people criticize them, whenever people offer them constructive criticisms. The fact is that there's not boots on the ground. Occasional, 1 day per week, part-time protest. And look, I commend those individuals, those few individuals who are out there protesting. I commend them. However, it's the opposition's job to ensure that these things are done. We have approximately 31 or 32 members of parliament in the opposition. We hardly see them Most of them are in hiding. And it is as though supporters of the coalition should just shut up and accept whatever they say. They're not on the ground. They're not doing what they're supposed to be doing. They hide back into their offices, their homes, or their second job. They have more respect for their second job that is not paying them as much as their first job as an MP is paying them. All of these things and more. But I'm glad that you have offered your opinion with regards to how politicians, whether they're selected, and you're right, maybe if they were directly elected by the people, they would not have been acting as so complacent or gone into hiding as most of them have gone into hiding. I see you shaking your head that if they were actually elected directly by the people, their attitudes would have been different.
Right. And sometimes, Mark, they don't even have to leave their office, but you have an open door policy where people can approach your office, people can come, they could share their opinion, they could, express things that are happening in their community that needs fixing. But a lot of times the politicians are not in tune with what's happening in the communities because, like you said, they are in hiding. But even if they would listen to the people, even if they would have their offices with the doors open that people could come in and they could tell them, like, listen, this is what's happening. We need representation in this area. This is something that needs fixing. Then even that would work. But a lot of times you can't even call the office of one of these politicians and express anything that's happening in your community that might need fixing. And the system is really broken. And I think as people continue to protest, continue to speak out on it, continue to advocate for changes, maybe eventually we may see some changes. We pray in our lifetime or even in our children's lifetime, we pray that there will be some amount of changes in the political system in Guyana. I pray that it becomes a fair system where our government are elected and not selected, or they're not put into power, installed. We don't want that. We want a fair and free election, if that's even possible in a country like Guyana. I think at some point, some generation will eventually be able to accomplish that. If not mine, some other generation may be able to accomplish exactly that.
Absolutely, and this is what the MPs in the opposition must understand. And if most of them could have that sort of arrogant attitude, believing that their supporters should shut up and just follow them, just imagine what they would do were they in office to their own supporters who may criticize them. That's not the way to go. They need to change their attitude right now. Elections are around the corner, and you don't win supporters by basically insulting and disrespecting supporters, all because of their constructive criticism, all because of their opinions and so forth and so on. They want to revisit that sort of dotish attitude, so to speak. Now, quickly, before I move to my next question, I just want to show a point to our viewers. I'll make this individual an example here this evening. Here is Zaid Khan is asking a question. What about when the government going out and want to do developing and you have so-called thugs stopping progress? And of course, we know what school he went to, but that's okay. So-called thugs stopping progress. Now, here's a message I have for this thug who is calling people thug. Now, I want him, Zaid Khan and others, to listen to this here. And then he would rethink in terms of calling opposition supporters thugs, and he'll point a finger at the real thug. Here goes.
Right across Guyana, when the ministers of Granger or Nagamutu come here after the 21st of March, you say to them, walk behind them, chase them out, they're going to be illegal. Say to them, you're illegal. Free up the country, you're undemocratic. They're going to face a different situation right across the country.
When they come to the communities, whether it is in Berbice or Essequibo and Linden or in South Georgetown or Agricola or in Emnor or Port Morant, the people of Guyana should treat them as illegal. I said they should walk behind them, chase them out of your communities, because it means they've been squatting in power.
Good. We've heard from the chief individual that I describe as chief thug. But yet these installed government supporters love to call opposition folks thugs for doing the very things or worse than what the PPP did when they were the opposition. In fact, when the PPP was in the opposition, they were opposition. They were opposing every single thing. They weren't sitting down doing sweet by walk like these chaps in the opposition right now. But what is your take on the hypocrisy? You just saw that thing by that one guy, Zaid Khan, calling opposition supporters thugs. And you heard Barajagir there encouraging people to do the exact thing.
I think there's an irony in that, and I think that person is not too familiar with what happens in Guyana, because the real thugs he just saw is the ones that listen to what Barjagir was telling the people in Guyana to do, to chase and run those opposition out of their villages. I think if we were making any real changes or real progress in Guyana, even the PPP, I don't think anybody would run them out. I think the only people we have to worry about, and that's what we have seen recently with a video you yourself, Mark, had put here online. We had seen one of the ministers, I forgot his name, that was recently when that whole incident was happening in Buxton. And I'm trying to remember where he went when they started to throw stuff at him and chase him out of their community. You had that video up here that night. If he wants to see real thugs, he needs to review that video and see who is the people that actually run government supporters out of their villages. It's definitely not our people. It's not Afro-Guyanese, because I haven't seen a video with Afro-Guyanese running any government officials out of their communities when they come to make any sort of improvements in the community, like roads or infrastructure. As a matter of fact, those things hardly ever happen. And even when they went to make representation, to speak to the people in Buxton, the people even listened. So I'm not sure what he is talking about. Maybe he's talking about the PPP supporters. But as far as I know, the Afro-Guyanese do not engage in that type of attitude, especially if it's to improve their community, which is something that rarely happens. You go and you walk around areas that are predominantly APNU supporters, and you will see the condition of those places, and you will see the disparity with how Afro-Guyanese communities are treated versus Indo-Guyanese. And I don't want to make this disparity very often, but it's something that you really can't turn a blind eyes to, because me coming from Linden, and you see the condition that the roads in Linden are in. I do not know if there have been any recent improvement on the roads in Guyana. I see sometimes a lot of money is being spent in Georgetown to fix the infrastructure, and I do understand why they focus on Georgetown being the capital. And I do see Berbice too. I've visited Berbice, and I noticed the roads in Berbice, some certain parts, not all over, of course, it's pretty good. But then you go to Linden, and even certain parts of the highway, which you believe that the government will focus on maintaining the highway to ensure that it's safe for people traveling back and forth on that highway on a daily basis. They don't even, there's a lot of sink, there's certain parts that are sink on that highway. You could feel the waves as if you're driving or you're in a bus, you could see there's certain parts where there's sink. The structure, it's not perfect. It definitely needs attention. And there's a lot of fatality that happens on that highway because of the condition it's in. But let me focus on this. Back to the point, Mark. I don't believe that in any of the communities where people who supports APNU or they supports the PNC, I don't believe they're the ones that chase anybody out or prevent or stops progress. We want progress. I want to see progress in our communities. I want to see everywhere being developed and being treated equal. I don't want to see this type of disparity happening in Guyana, where one group of people in one community are treated differently from another community. I hope at some point the government will be listening to your program, Mark. They will be listening to you, and you will make an impact on the things that they're doing, on the way they're treating the Guyanese people, and they will make some sort of changes in some way or the other. I'm hoping.
you know, they do listen to these sort of programs, but when they do, they try to cover it up with lies. And when they cover the lies up, it opens a bigger can of worm. That's what they have been doing. They do listen, and these sort of programs have been affecting them, have been basically stopping them from doing much more that they want to do in terms of discriminating against mainly persons of African descent, and they also discriminate against those who don't support them. And that's a crime, and that is what we expose every single day. You mentioned earlier that you don't see these sort of behavior in mainly APNU support base, and we can just say mainly, let's say in areas where there's a predominant of African Guyanese. And now I'm not saying just all African Guyanese support just the PNC or the coalition, but look at how they treat, look at how the PPP supporters, look at how they treat people, policemen, innocent citizens, and then they call it fighting for democracy. Now you see those two policemen running, and these are the people who the first thing they call is policeman, police not come. And look how they're treating these policemen who went out there to ensure that they don't destroy the roads, ensure that they don't destroy buses, ensure that they don't kill, as they have stoned school children in buses, and all these manner of things. Beat up nurses, broke up a car, chop up a policeman. These are the last set of people, PPP supporters, who should be talking about thugs. So we saw that. We saw that. And I want you to take a quick, I want you to listen to this. There's a bit of, foul language and these sort of things. I ask our listeners to, if ahead of time, to accept my apologies.
Are you any better?
No.
You're throwing out a helpless dog?
What helpless dog? I don't need a dog in my yard, all right? Okay. You want a dog, take it, put it between your legs.
You little bastard.
No, you probably want the dog to fuck you. That's what you want. I don't care. I don't care who you are.
I don't care who the hell you are.
Fuck you.
Yeah, dekha.
Now listen to me.
You're drunk. You're
Don't
bloody,
let any woman come in my yard.
You're bloody drunk.
Hello. You like the camera?
You don't understand English. Speak in Hindi. Chalo, tum chalo.
Miss Washington, I'm not sure. Again, apology to you and our listeners for that foul mouth individual. Have you seen that tape? Have you heard it? Do you know what that is about?
I have not, Mark. This is the first time.
That's the guy who sat there, Charendas, in India, being paid by all taxpayers of Guyana. Charendas Prasad, as Guyana High Commissioner to India, insulting animal rights activists about a dog in his yard that we taxpayers are paying for. And the woman went to look for a stray dog, and that is how he treated her. He's no longer Guyana's High Commissioner to India. This incident happened over a year ago. It is just now that it came public, and nothing can tell me that the installed regime didn't know about this incident. So Irfan Ali jumped up and he recalled this guy as Guyana's High Commissioner to India. But let's get your take on what you just heard there.
I mean, I'm not surprised. And the PPP must have known who they were putting in that position. This is a guy who basically APNU would have called reference as Judas. He betrayed them openly. He sold his soul for 2 pieces of gold and a piece of silver, whatever the situation was. So him speaking like that to a woman, I would imagine somebody like him has no respect for other humans, because look at the way he's speaking to this woman, very disrespectful, and she looks like she's a Muslim or something of the sort. Either way, he has no right to speak to any person in that manner, whether or not he believed he was being recorded or he believed no one was seeing what he was doing. But the PPP should have known that this guy has no moral scruples. Anyone who would betray their own party for money, you cannot tell me that you have any moral scruples or that you have any sort of discretion, because the fact is you betrayed your own political party. So it's not surprising to me. And the president, Afrin Ali, putting somebody of this kind of character in that type of position raises question of our own president of Guyana as to why would you take somebody who betrayed their own party and put them in a
We can't even just look at that. Guyana doesn't really have a president at this point in time, someone who has been installed, someone who sits there. And there's just widespread perception that Charendas took money. Widespread perception. It still has not been proven, but a lot of Guyanese have that perception that he sold the country out for 20 pieces of silver, and that the perception is that he must have gotten some sort of financial gain.
Even if he didn't get any compensation, the fact is he betrayed his own party.
I agree with
Even
you
if he wasn't
100%.
compensated.
And by betraying the party, he betrayed the people of Guyana.
Exactly.
Unlike what Anil Nandalal said during my treason trial, my fake treason trial, that Ben Sharp put his hands on Mother Guyana. Mother Guyana. Well, let me say this to Anil Nandalal and others. Charendas put his hands on Mother Guyana. He kicked Mother Guyana. He did all manner of things to Mother Guyana. These crosses, I don't know. Look, unless you have something else to say about that particular individual, I want to move on.
Let's move on, Mark. I don't think he's worth being given too much attention.
But enough of him. Now, I see individuals writing and abusing and cussing up Bornham. You know, as we get older, because mind you, Miss Washington, we are getting older. We are, right?
We all are.
We are getting older, indeed. We get to see the different things from a different standpoint. And Lemon has just brought to my attention that we seem to have a lot of trench crappos out tonight. And when the trench crappos are out, they do not know how to conduct a civilized discussion, a proper discourse. It's always something about your mama, your papa, your mama. Right? These guys are weird bunch of trench crappos, right? And so let me ask you this. Bornham, every day them across Bornham. Every day them across Bornham. But look what Bornham did, President Bornham did. The road, the highway, Quarantine Highway, Linden Suzike Highway, all the roads in Georgetown, the schools, free university, all manner of things Bornham did that they benefited from Bornham's government. All of these people. But one thing I can say, when I was a little boy growing up and during Bornham days, you hardly heard about extrajudicial killings. But under Jack Deere's presidency, look how many, dozens upon dozens of extrajudicial killings. Hundreds of people were slaughtered, death squad, drug dealing, all manner of things. And 5 times more persons have left Guyana under the PPP than they did under Bornham's presidency. What is it that you think that this hatred by some of these PPP supporters against Bornham?
I think most of it is predicated on bias, prejudice against race, because, Burnham, for me, I was told a lot about what happened, and I've read about what happened during Burnham's presidency. And I think what he did and what he was trying to do is to make Guyana a place where we were financially, economically independent of any other country. He was trying to make it so that Guyana could grow the products that they, make whatever they consume, whatever they produce, and not having to import a lot of stuff. And he was trying to develop it in whatever way he could, just based on the natural resources that we had in Guyana, versus being 100% dependent on the Western power and having outside countries coming in and doing exactly what is happening today, which is raping and robbing Guyanese of their wealth. All of our natural resources are controlled by external companies. We don't have one single natural resource, Mark, that is exclusively controlled by our country. Even though we have so much wealth, Guyana is a very wealthy country. It has gold, it has bauxite, and now we have oil. And although we are so wealthy in terms of the natural resources that we have available to us, the country is still in desperate, diverse poverty, and more than 70% of Guyanese live in extreme poverty. And we can say the other 19% are a little bit better off, and then we have only 1% who we can consider wealthy. And that should not be the position that Guyanese should be in, because Guyana is a very wealthy country. Look at Dubai. Dubai has oil and it's a very rich country, and they try as much as they can to make the wealth available across the board. Now in Guyana, we have one set of people control everything. And then I was told by one person that if you want to get anything done, the people with the money are the Indian. Now, why is that? Why isn't the wealth, why is money not also easily available to Afro-Guyanese? And I think that's where we are messing up, because we have one political party in power trying to keep another racial group down, which shouldn't be in this day and age. At this point, we should be at a point where we integrate our society, make the wealth available, make finances available through the bank, through whatever lending we have, to all of Guyanese people, and not disparage or differentiate between Black or an Indo. We are all one, or we should be one. We have the song that we always sing, but it doesn't really represent who we are as a people. When an Afro-Guyanese walk into a bank, it should be, he or she should be able to borrow money just as if an Indo-Guyanese walked into a bank. But there's so many hurdles and obstacles to Afro-Guyanese being able to accomplish things that, it's difficult. It makes for difficult living in Guyana. And I think some of the policies that the late Sampson Burnham had in place was really effective on equalizing the system, because we didn't have this big disparity in terms of how Blacks and how Indians are treated when the late First Sampson Burnham was alive and he was ruling Guyana. Yeah, the people in Guyana were complaining because of, the availability of external or foods which were imported, but still he was trying to make Guyanese farm. If all Guyanese were farming today, they wouldn't be in the position that they were in recently with the COVID-19 virus. They would have been able to pick food, get their food, harvest their food from their gardens and use that. But because the system was changed, they tried to undo a lot of the things that the late for Sampson Burnham had accomplished. It makes for a difficult environment for Afro-Guyanese, and we have to try to undo that. And I think most of the Indians find it, or they would say that he didn't do what he did wasn't good, because it might be just racial bias. Because I don't see any reason why we should discredit what one of the greatest leader in Guyana had accomplished. And if he was allowed, Guyana would have been 100% or almost independent and free of relying too much on imported goods. I went to Guyana the other day and I see most of the goods in the supermarket are things that are imported. We have moved away significantly from having our own locally produced goods in supermarkets. So a lot of those things that I'm used to, or when I was growing up, we saw, it's no more.
Absolutely no more. Well said, Attorney at Law Sheldon Washington with us here. But the thing is, though, these PPP supporters, they have no shame. They're putting Jagdeo and people like Irfan Ali alongside Forbes Burnham. There was always this saying, and even as a little boy growing up, you get this because when you hit away at a propaganda, it somewhat sticks. That Burnham died being the richest man in that part, or one of the richest men in the world. To this day, not a cent can be found to
There's
prove
no comparison.
his propaganda. But compare Jagdeo when he got into office. He was renting a little shop front in Kitty. He didn't get nothing, a little two left side slippers. went to school under the PNC in Russia, came back with a little small degree in economics. And guess where he worked? He worked at the Ministry of Finance under the Burnham government, the PNC government. The PNC never discriminated against him because of his race. The PNC never discriminated, or under Burnham, never discriminated against individuals because of their race. There were free education at the university level, and people were not qualified to attend university for free because of their race. Look at NIS. NIS was created for all of Guyanese so that when they work and they make contributions to NIS, that they will have their money when they reach age, like my good friend Ernest Elliott, who has contributed tremendously to Guyana. Good night to you, Ernest, and others. But guess what happened to NIS? That Burnham's vision for people when they become pensioners, Burnham's vision, Jack Day put his hands into NIS funds and took out hundreds of millions of dollars, almost bankrupt the entire agency, NIS, gave it to his friends and cronies to invest in the Berbice River Bridge. In any other part of the world, Jack Day would have been jailed by now. He should have been in Camp Street Prison or Lusignan in the hammock sitting down with Bobo. Sitting down with whomever in a hammock. But no, these are the Looney Tunes who want to present themselves as leaders with vision. A man with 19 fraud charges, who was prevented from traveling to Canada. The Canadians didn't step in and say they're stopping him, Irfan Ali, from going to Canada because they felt like. There was a particular reason why. And to this day, Irfan Ali didn't come out to say the reason why. I am almost certain that he was told why he was prevented from going to Canada. Of course, some of his supporters are going to say, but he been in Canada the other day. That's different now. It doesn't mean that when he's no longer an installed president that he would still be allowed to go to Canada. These are the sort of people who are comparing themselves alongside Burnham, and they're giving this impression that Jagan did so much for Guyana. Jagan this. I don't know. Sorry about that.
Mark, there's no comparison. There's simply none. It's just Burnham wasn't recognized internationally because of his intellect. He was very brilliant. His policies might not have been ideal for what the Western world would have embraced, but
at that time it was a different era. It was called
right. But he was he was very, very brilliant. The policies, if Guyana had only moved in that direction. And I saw one of your viewers wrote here about about diabetes and the sicknesses that are rampant now in Guyana. Yeah, that's because of the food that they're importing. They're importing food that Guyanese have no business eating. If Guyana continued to produce what they eat, then we wouldn't have such a problem right now. And and even now, there's a lot of cars on the road too. So that makes a whole difference in terms of how you should eat and what your diet should look like. But Guyanese people are not being educated about the right things. So they want to live like they're in America. So live like you're in America. You're going to face the same type of problems that Americans face based on their diet. Guyanese has no business in a country like that having the supermarket stocked with foreign food from United States of America. And Guyanese thinks it's a good thing to have all American food in their cabinets at home. No, it's really not a good thing.
Some people in Guyana no longer want to eat cashew. They want to eat apple.
Yeah.
They don't want to eat dungs no more. They want to eat grapes. No,
Yeah.
I'm not laughing at when I'm in Guyana, I eat my dungs, I eat my cashew, and all manner of things. I don't have time at apples. Even over here, I don't know when was the last time I ate an apple, right? But now people no longer want to eat the regular flour. You know what kind of flour they want to eat now, Miss Washington? The same sort of flour that they condemn Burnham for. Rice flour.
Rice flour. Rice flour.
And they are even, those folks in the PPP are even promoting rice flour.
Rice flour. Because you know why? because now, but because of the war with Russia and Ukraine, there's not that much flour available now. So now they're realizing that if we had stayed on the same path that President late Ferb Sampson Burnham had laid out for us, we would have been okay. We would have been okay using our rice flour, our cassava flour, our plantain flour, and we would have gotten used to that by now. In terms
People
of
talking about five-finger drinks and pomegranate drinks and all these things, you know, even swank, even lime wash, and these sort of things.
You see, the thing is, Guyanese were trained to like things from abroad, so they don't realize the value of what they have until they come in a country, come here where I live, and they realize that a lot of the things we were using in Guyana is really good for your health, for you health-wise. And it's not about eating the cereal that you find on the supermarket store over here, the Kellogg's and the General Mills.
And all these different things, plantain flour, rice flour. And I'm not sure if you recall that under Burnham, because I heard of it, there was a glass factory, right? A glass factory. Let me ask you something, Miss Washington, and others. I'm not going to put you on the spot, but do you know that under Burnham, under the PNC, they were manufacturing vehicles in Guyana?
Oh, wow. I did not know, but
let me give some of our listeners an opportunity to, let me see how many of them know that Guyana was manufacturing vehicles under the PNC. There was a glass factory under the PNC, but under Jagdev and under Irfan and under Donna Ramutar, guess what they produce? Tons and tons of cocaine, drugs. That is their legacy. Drugs, drugs, drugs. But look, some of our listeners know, if you go out on the quarantine, till up topside, as we say on the quarantine, you will see something called tapir. I don't know if you know tapir. Tapir. It's a, I don't know how to describe it, but it was a start. It holds passengers, and to this day, a lot of our Indian brothers and sisters, almost all of them own tapir. And when they're driving the tapir, I want all of them to be reminded that that tapir is a vision of Burnham, and it was manufactured in Guyana.
Wow.
Just imagine if Guyana had continued to have someone with such a vision like Forbes Burnham.
Wow.
And don't talk about his eloquence. Don't talk about his brilliance.
You can't. Uncomparable, Mark.
You think Burnham would song like this? Sorry, but like this?
Right across Guyana, when the ministers of Granger or Nagamutu come here after the 21st of March, you say to them,
source. Maybe the Chinese company that did not get the agreement that they wanted here, maybe they're the ones who told you. Or it could be just a fictitious thing.
Okay, well, let's talk about specific individuals. What is your relationship with Mr. Sujaro?
Oh, you think Burnham would song like that? Like
Mark,
that?
you already know he was very eloquent.
It's an embarrassment to think that. Listen to this other one. Let's please, Miss Washington, listen to this other thing.
Mr. Watts, he's armed himself shots. Watch it, tear gas. Live rounds. Also, I can see that.
Just for Brandon! The man is a boxer, man. Why can't put in a boxer, man, to do that?
But since my cousin there, no, you come on the East Coast.
You listen to me.
Right? No, you come to the East Coast.
You listen to me now.
You gotta listen to me too, man.
I am listening to you.
Right? Now, I see you on the East Coast. The day when they get a protest of them, the next day that's when you see one bigger heads come up for talk to my family. Right? And that's bad. If you didn't do a protest, you want to see nobody for justice. You see? I'm not holding back nothing. I'm not holding back nothing. I just need justice for my family.
I get visitors all of a sudden. All of a sudden, This is Joker. Who is that Joker? That piece of plum. They know who to deal with, you know.
The quality of so-called leaders of today. Listen to these guys. Just listen to them, please, Miss Washington, and our listeners. Listen to these pakus, as we will call them. But I was told also that not only Tapir, that's a vehicle up on the quarantine, not only that, and if my journalist friend that's watching and listening to us on YouTube and giving me some messages on WhatsApp, if my friend can just get us a copy, a photograph of the tapir, please, sir, you know who you are. Give us a photograph of that tapir so that I can show it to our listeners. But
and I see people. I see viewers, Mark, they're talking about the glass factory and that the sand was one of the main ingredients that was used.
Yeah. And then the bicycles and so forth. If I'm not mistaken, there was a bicycle. There was a bicycle ladder. Yes, thank you, Theodore Adams from Adams Boat Landing. They're watching us. They're listening to us in Linden, Adams Boat Landing. I know you use that boat landing a lot of times.
Oh, yes, Mark, to go to school back in the days. Yes, I did.
I hope you paid because Theodore Adams
is watching. Mark.
Right.
Back
and then
in the days, you had to pay.
There was a bicycle call, and then somebody said Greco Radio. Thank you so much, Sandra. And then there was, I believe, bicycle called Kalai. If J.R. Crawford is watching, he can tell us. Then refrigerators and all these things in Guyana on the Bornum.
I think you know, if
not drugs, not cocaine, not money launderers, not gold smugglers, and all these sort of things we're seeing under Jack Dale, Irfan Ali, Donald Ramotar. We got to speak. It's reality. But hold on. Wait a minute, Miss Washington. Somebody said Kalai. Jamal Aziz, salam alaikum to you, my friend. And look, Jamal Aziz and his family have suffered under the PPP. They burnt his butcher shop down. They did a lot of things to this family. And trust me, I know that a lot of our Indian brothers and sisters are also suffering under the PPP. And I want to salute Jamal Aziz and all of our other brothers and sisters who are feeling the squeeze under the PPP. Now, somebody said we had brick factory, leather factory. Y'all hearing all these things. And that is why the opposition, they got to put these things out there to remind our young generation. Don't
exactly, because, you know,
some of these writing things and making it look like Bornum was a demon. Now, wait a minute. No leader was perfect. No leader. Forget about these bleeders here who present themselves as leaders, these pakus. But wait, I showed them Irfan and Jack Dale. I want them to listen to this guy.
Is now over. A hard and at times bitter campaign has come to an end. On the results, the People's National Congress, in the interests of peace and stability in Guyana, has agreed with the support of the United Force to form a government. One of the most serious tasks facing us at this moment is the attainment of independence at the earliest point of time. One of the disturbing features of the election, which we have noted, is the apparent cleavage existing in our society, brought about by colonialism and 7 years of mismanagement and misrule. It has come to our knowledge that despite the years of disaster suffered by the people of this country, a large section of the electorate was persuaded against its best interests to vote for the party formerly in power as a result of the dishonest and opportunist propaganda that, unless that party was returned to power, those people would suffer. The new government, headed by me, intends to show by its actions in the immediate future, and indeed throughout its term of office, that this is not true. The problem of racial cleavage, racial antagonism, and distrust, which the last government allowed to develop during its term of office, is still with us. But our government recognizes this as a challenge which it intends to accept and which it is determined to overcome. My government considers that it is a matter of the greatest importance and the utmost urgency that an atmosphere of relaxation be established immediately. The reduction of tension, which is already apparent and which will become more pronounced with every passing day, when it is realized that not only are we intent on being fair and just, but also that we have at our disposal the means to carry out our intention, is merely the first fruits of our attainment of office. Enemies of this country would like to see racial division and antagonism continue. They will not have that satisfaction. The government recognizes that its duty is to rule in the interests of all the people of this country. It will dispel the fears of the apprehensive and confound the hopes of those who seek the destruction of this country. To be specific, this government holds that all the people of this country are equally important, whether they belong to a large group or to a small group. To us, the Amerindians are important. To us, the Chinese are important. To us, the Portuguese are important. To us, the Europeans are important.
Sorry about that. For all of our folks, this is a tapir. And for those of you who are seeing what a tapir looks like, maybe for the first time, this is a tapir. It looks like a mini, what is it they call them? A Hummer. It looks like a mini Hummer. This was manufactured in Guyana under Burnham's presidency, under the PNC, under Burnham's presidency. What is it that these individuals have to show? What legacy are they leaving behind? Absolutely nothing. No legacy other than drugs, 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 drugs. Well, go ahead, Miss Washington.
I mean, it's incredible, the things that the late Ferb Sampson Burnham had accomplished. I'm impressed. I'm very impressed because, to be honest, Mark, I did not know we did manufacture something like this. It looks like something very modern looking at it right now. It looks like Guyana had a lot of things that we were producing. For me, I've only known about some of the food items, but I've seen here, this is very informative for me also. It's like a history lesson, not realizing just how many things that, Guyana was in fact producing under this great leader to us. And I think he should be to every single Guyanese, whether you be Indo, whether you be Afro-Guyanese, he should be remembered as an incredible man who led Guyana, into some degree of success, because look at us, we were producing our own vehicle I had no clue. I had no idea we were producing bicycles. And I've seen a lot of the viewers wrote about things that we were making in Guyana. And, just learning about some of this just makes me even proud to be a Guyanese who was fortunate to have a leader as for Samson Burnham. I think he was renowned internationally just because of his charisma, because of his brilliance. He was very, very charismatic and he was very brilliant. I think the things that he came up with are suitable for a leader in these times that we're living in. And I think if we had continued on that path, like I said before, Guyana would have been able to rally through a lot of the economic downturns that this world has been experiencing recently, especially since the COVID-19. And we're still feeling the effects of today of what it's like. I have people calling from Guyana. I know friends, I know, family are still calling and they're complaining because of the conditions that they're living in financially. Money is difficult to come by, but it's a struggle. And I truly believe that the leaders that we have in office today, they should honor and recognize what was accomplished by our previous leader, for Samson Burnham. He did accomplish a lot.
And exactly, they should do that. But we can depend on these Pakus who are part of this installed regime to recognize the man for all of the contributions. A lot of them have benefited tremendously under Burnham's government. And in fact, the propaganda about rice flour, the propaganda about rice, banning of flour and all these things, it's propaganda because everybody used flour in Guyana. Not one ethnic group make roti with flour. People make bake, people make bread, people make dumpling, all manner of things. But quickly they rush with the propaganda that, and even though some other individuals who were part of Burnham's president's administration and who were diehard PNC, Sridhar Ramphal, all these other guys, Shahabuddin, all of them, Ranjit Chandy Singh, all of them came out and denounced what the PPP was saying in terms of their propaganda, that in terms of the restriction of certain commodities, they had the critical support from Chedi Jagan, then opposition leader, who supported Burnham with the restriction of flour. But yet them go around the place jumping all over, all in Burnham ban flour, Burnham ban flour. And because he banned flour, like be Indians. But it's not Indians alone who eat flour, make things with flour. Of course, we all like we roti, we like we bake, we like we bread, we like we whatever else they make with flour. But before you comment, sorry, here is something look like the Kalai. Kalai bike. Abi Kalama quarantine. Kalai bike. J.R. Crawford and the other guys had one. And I always remember Kalai bike because my father promised to buy me one. And up to now, I'm still await for him Kalai bike. It's not too late. I know my dad is watching. It's not too late. This is it.
Oh, wow.
This is something.
Nice.
It's not. It's a little prettier than that, but this is the closest I could come to it. J.R. Crawford, they had one, and once I punctured the front wheel. So my apologies, J.R. So now you know the truth. All these things, though, produced in Guyana. Have you heard of Sonata Textile?
Oh, yeah, I've heard of them.
Do
They
you
were
know
around.
do you know what happened to Sonata Textile?
I think it closed.
No, it had closed.
It's still open?
Jagdeer take it and sell it to his friend.
Oh, wow.
Named Bobby Ramroop. Sold it to his friend. But go ahead, continue.
But Mark, there's one thing I want, and I want to comment about it because I want it to resonate in your listeners' spirit. Let it resonate in your spirit, people. There's something that when Mark showed that video of Ferb Samson Burnham as he was speaking, and I want this to resonate in the PPP's spirit also. I want them to take a page out of the late Ferb Samson Burnham's book, and I want them to use that for the rest of their time that they're going to remain in office or until they allow justice to be served. Let it resonate that the Ferb Samson Burnham, he said in Guyana, every single person is important, whether you belong to a large group, meaning a large racial group, or whether you belong to a small group, meaning a small racial group. integration is important. He said, you are important to Guyana. And I want that to resonate with every single political leader, that every single person is important to Guyana, regardless of their race, regardless of their sex, regardless of their religion. And I want them to understand, as you serve the people of Guyana, let that sit in your spirit, that every single one of those persons that you were put in office or installed in office to serve are important to Guyana. They are important to the economy. They are important to the development. They're important to infrastructure. They're important to every single aspect of the development in Guyana. And I think if you allow those words from our late leader to sink in your spirit, you will understand the importance of doing what is right and what is just for all Guyanese.
Difficult. It's really difficult for them to do that. Really difficult for them to do that, Ms. Washington. Sorry about that. So we're looking at all the people and they're commenting about these things. That is what the opposition need to, they got to stop sitting down and allow these PPP vagabonds to insult their leader, to insult Burnham, who did all of these things for all Guyanese. And you're correct. There's one people, one nation, one destiny. These Pacus were installed on the island of one Guyana.
And Mark, I had no idea we were producing medicine too. They were talking about the pharmacy, Guyana pharmaceutical products.
Every single thing. But under Jack David, Irfan Ali, and Donna Ramatar, they're producing drugs, cocaine, and these sort of things. Extrajudicial killings. More people were killed under the PPP extrajudicially through death squads, through drug lords, than all of the years of the PNC in office.
Mark, I remember those terrible days of the death squad. I remember those days so well. I was at the University of Ghana, and I remember those were terrifying times in Ghana. I'm sorry, but it was very, very terrifying and very scary because one minute, you would hear of things happening, and then people will be just dropped dead. They will be dropped.
And I recall going to school. Nursery school. I went to Ross Nursery School at Alnes Village. I drop out from nursery school. I like Irfan and them. I drop out from nursery school. But Crawford, all of us were going to, and Davis and these guys, all of us, Hardawar, Haridata, Boyo, Chulu, all of us were going to Alnes Nursery School. And as soon as we reach the nursery school, no matter what we will eat at home, we got free biscuit, we had milk powder, and all manner of things. I used to take away J.R. Crawford milk powder, he and his brother Ryan, right? They couldn't do me anything. Just say, give me milk powder, why? Right? But the point is, all of those things under the PNC, Burnham feed enough of these PPP people, right? But enough of some of these PPP people who are called person of African descent, hungry belly. Burnham fed the entire nation. You know how much of them used to go to Alnes Primary School or Wellington Park or whichever primary school and get free milk powder, free biscuit. You know what? That biscuit was the best biscuit I've ever had in the world. I know where they're getting that biscuit from. Burnham fed everybody.
Mark, I think that biscuit was made in Guyana.
Milo in school. All kind of things.
Made in Guyana.
Nobody was left. No child was left to hang around hungry. None whatsoever. Absolutely none. But yet these vagabonds who call themselves leaders today. Anyways, the PNC got to do more in terms of sending that message out to young people, the young generation.
I know we need to educate people more about what the late Forbes Sampson Burnham actually did and things that he accomplished, because not knowing all of this, you would believe that you would hear the narrative. Like one of the narrative I always was told is that, oh, there was a lot of starvation, they were banning flour, they were banning this, but no one ever told me the true story, like all of these things that he accomplished.
You see how this program turned out, right? You learn about Kalai bikes, you learn about Tapir, you learn about rice flour and all these things, lots of things, the glass factory, NIS and so forth. This is why the other day I said to the leader of the opposition, people are excited about a library, a presidential library at Congress Place, so that people, school children could go in and they could learn about the history. Learn about the history. Burnham's vision was free education from nursery to university. When the PPP got into office in 1992, guess what they did? They stopped
changed
free
it.
education.
I know, Mark, because I was the beneficiary of being paid, having to pay to go to University of Guyana. So
compliments of the PPP, but all of those people, Irfan Ali, now forget about Irfan. Irfan went to ghost universities, but folks like Jack Deere and all of these guys benefited. All of them benefited from free education at the university level. Free education.
Yeah, and then he went and he changed that for people like me. He benefited from free, but then he changed it for us. We had to pay.
These guys in the PPP are Nimakarams. They are Katahars. They are Korhis. Those are the same term that they use against Moses Nagamutu. They know what it means. And Ramjatan and others who walked away from Nimakaram, Katahar, Korhi. That is what they are. Miss Washington, before we go, I want you to touch, let's head back to, we know. Thank you, Lemon. Lemon said, let's hear this. How democracies die. Democracies die as a result of bleeders like Jack Deo and Irfan Ali and those guys. They're not leaders. They are flat-foot hustlers. That is what they have. No vision, nothing whatsoever so that we can sit down and say, you know what, 10 years from now, 15 years from now, or 20 years from now, Guyana gonna look right by. No, not under these guys at all. It's their hustling going on. Their friends and cronies and families getting all of the wealth, getting everything. And occasionally they go quarantine and throw a little $100,000 in some of their supporters' hands and expect $100,000 to stretch for God in heaven knows how long. Meanwhile, the people in Linden ain't getting nothing. The people in Albaiston ain't getting nothing. The people in Buxton, Tiger Bay, and other places, in Ituni, in Kwakwani, in Old England, them ain't getting nothing. Bartica, them ain't getting nothing other than stress. Miss Washington, it's almost 9:30. Your closing remarks, please.
Mark, once again, I want to thank you for having me on the show. Thanks to everyone who's listening, who took time out of your Friday night to come and listen to this program. I want to say thank you, supporters, the ones who are supporting my law practice in Brooklyn, New York. I'm so grateful for you guys. Thank you for the referrals, for every person who has actually used my service and continues to use my service. Thank you. Thank you so much for all your support, all of the love. Thank you, guys. I really appreciate it. And also, guys, just so you know, I'm on Facebook. You can follow me on Facebook. You can follow me on every single social media. I'm on TikTok. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Twitter. I'm on every single social media. You could follow me, add me. Don't worry if you don't see me accept your friend requests right away. You can follow me because, you know, I get pretty caught up with work. First of all, I want to say once again, thank you. And I want to encourage you to continue to press forward for us to work towards a better Guyana. Continue to advocate, continue to come and show up on programs like this where we can talk, where we can share information, educate each other about what a great leader, at least we know we had at least a few great leaders in Guyana. We don't know what we have right now, but we know that in the past we had really great leaders who were very intelligent and they led our country with such great leadership. So I want to just say once again, thanks to all of you for tuning in tonight and listening to this program and for your contributions. And I hope I'll see you guys sometime again whenever I come here. Again, you can also follow me on Facebook. Thank you, guys. If you want to get in touch with me in terms of the law practice, the number is up there on Mark's screen, 718-877-3100. And the areas that I specialize in are visible there. Or even if you just need a legal consult on any particular issue, I do offer free consultation, but just let me caution you about the free consult. It is limited. It's not an unlimited consultation, but I am available if you are looking for legal advice. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time. As always, I had another question for you, but I'll save it for another time because we are looking at the time. Lemon has to go out, he said, old people party somewhere. So we'll want to give him that respect. And to all of our listeners, thank you guys so much for listening this evening. We want you to have a safe, a very productive and peaceful weekend. Whatever you do, just be safe at doing it. Reject this one Guyana thing. That one Guyana stuff that these folks who are part of the installed regime, it's fake. Our coat of arms, small by in the quarantine, we use a coat of arms, but it's coat of arms. It says one people, one nation, one destiny. Don't let any lagu-bagu change that. And to make you guys believe that there is one Guyana under the PPP regime, there's not one Guyana. There's a divided Guyana, there's an apartheid Guyana, there's a corrupt Guyana under the PPP, the installed PPP regime. Let us hammer home this here. One people, one nation. As you go about tonight your business, I know you're going to reminisce about rice flour. You're going to reminisce about the glass factory that appear. Some of you who never knew these sort of things, now you know. I have learned some other things that we produced in Guyana tonight. And thank you to the folks who have been there longer than we have. And these are the folks who need to let us know. They need to remind us. They need to write articles. They need to do stuff and remind the younger generation about what happened under Burnham's presidency compared to what is happening under these guys' hustling mentality in the PPP, thieving mentality in the PPP, corrupt mentality in the PPP. What the PPP has produced under Jack Dale, Donald Ramatar, and Irfan Ali is drugs, 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 corruption, money launderers, gold smugglers. That's their legacy. But remember this, one people, one nation with one destiny. Miss Washington, as always, thank you so much. Have a great weekend. God bless.
Good night, Mark.
Good. And to our listeners, God bless you all as well. Until, when is it? Until Monday, same place, same time, right here on 107.1 FM. So long.
Let's get together. Stop all this fussing and fighting. Let's love one another. You gotta help your mother, help your father, help your brothers, help your sisters, help your neighbors and your friends. We are one people, one nation, one destiny. Everybody, y'all. One people, one nation, one destiny. Yeah, yeah. Separated. Now we are freer. That's the way it should be. You gotta help your mother, help your father, help your sister, help your brothers, help your neighbors, and your friends. We are one people, one nation, one destiny. Yeah, yeah. One people, one nation, one destiny. Yeah, 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 yeah. Ooh. We are one people, one nation, one destiny. Yeah, yeah. One people, one nation, one destiny. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Do it like this, reggae's another day, y'all. Move on. Uh-huh. In the olden days, we were separated. Now we are free, yeah. That's the way it should be. You gotta help your mother, help your father, help your sister, help your brothers, help your neighbors, and your friends. We are one people, one nation, one destiny. Sing my song, yeah. One people, one nation, one destiny. Whoa, whoa, whoa. One people we are, we're one destiny. What we're fighting for, I don't know. Let's keep on living, loving.